I always looked at The Omen not as a horror film. I felt if I pitched a horror film to myself, I didn't want to do it. And if I pitched it to the actors, they wouldn't want to do it. In my mind, I made it a mystery suspense thriller.
I think that this was a picture that was destined to be. And there are very few pictures that you see, and I see a lot of them, that are really going to change the lives of the people who see that movie. Because you cannot walk into a showing of The Omen that you've never seen and sit there for 2 hours and come out exactly the same person that entered that theater.
Bob Munger scared the hell out of us. He recited every verse of Book of Revelations. He said it was going to be a dangerous mission. The devil wasn't going to like it. And he really warned us all through the picture.
You know, everybody had the feeling that we had something really out of the ordinary. And one of the main things that Richard and Harvey and David Seltzer impressed on the cast was that everybody had to believe implicitly in that what they were playing was really going on.
What I wanted to do with The Omen was deal in the delusion of the devil and the fantasy and the imagination, because those things that really frighten us are those things that make us think we're losing our mind.
I thought, gee, what if the Antichrist was really alive right now and already walking this planet? He's just a little kid. It sent a chill through me when I thought of it.
Bob Munger, a born-again Christian, in a Hollywood restaurant, he said, "Did you ever read the Book of Revelations?" I said, "No." He said, "What if the Antichrist came back as a little boy?" I dropped the food. I walked out of the restaurant. I wrote 10 pages. I called David Seltzer. There was a writer's strike on at the time. I paid him in advance, and he wrote, in 4 weeks, he wrote The Omen.
I must have researched probably for 3 months before I really set anything down on paper. And the 3 sixes are simply what they are. It's the sign of the beast. You know, at the beginning of the book, The Omen, there is that excerpt from the chapter in Revelations that talks about the 3 sixes. The 3 sixes are the unholy sign. 7 is the perfect sign, and 6 is its opposite. You find in religion that everything has a direct contradiction, thus the essence of temptation, they say.
That's one of the mysteries that's in the Bible. It just says that, I can't tell you, his name or whatever, but his symbol will be 666. Now, there are various theologians who have different opinions as to who that meant or who it might mean or whatever. That is a prediction that's in the Bible, and someday we'll see the truth of it. As time goes on, you will see that this picture, unlike thousands of other movies that just entertain you, is based upon absolute truth that is going to affect your personal life. I mean, you personally.
I guess it brought to the front the book. And the Bible's the thing. And if it made people read the Bible, then they sold a lot more Bibles and got a lot more bodies into churches, and that's their mission, I would assume. And so maybe we did a little good for them. They did a good box office, let's put it that way.
The Bible said that the unholy one will rise from the eternal sea. And then in an interpretive text, I saw that the eternal sea had been interpreted by theologians as the world of revolution and turmoil. In other words, the world of politics. So, the devil's child rises in the world of politics. And I just applied the 3 sixes to his body, and I was off and running.
From the eternal sea, he rises, creating armies on either shore. That was the beginning of it.
And theologians have already interpreted the eternal sea as meaning the world of politics, the sea that constantly rages with turmoil and revolution. So the devil's child will rise from the world of politics.
Matter of fact, there was somebody in Parliament named Jeremy Thorpe, and I think I named him Jeremy Thorne. He was supposed to be a Brit, and I said it there basically because I was in the habit of writing scripts set in places I wanted to visit, even though I'd never been there. I did that all the time because I got a free trip. And I thought, I'll write this in England, and I'll set it with British characters so that I can spend some time there. And as it turned out, American commerce demands American players.
Mace Neufeld got involved, and he got it to Warner Brothers. And Chuck Bale was going to direct it, and we went to Switzerland and decided on Switzerland. We came back, and then Warner Brothers, unbeknownst to us, had Exorcist II. And we didn't know it, but they went on the budget. They went lower and lower and lower and lower, and finally it fell apart, and that was the end of it. Then I said, if this picture doesn't go, I'm going to get out of the business.
The script was going to be put in turnaround at Fox. No, at Warner Brothers. So Eddie Rosen, who was an agent there, picked it up, read it, said, I think this is great for Dick. He called me, he said, do me a favor, read this. They're going to put it in turnaround on Monday, turnaround meeting that the studio was going to drop it from Warner Brothers. I respected Eddie, and I was going out to dinner to have dinner by coincidence with Alan Ladd Jr. and his wife Patty. I started to turn pages, and I went, oh, wow. And then I kept turning pages before I knew it was an hour. I'd read the whole script. I was really hooked. I ran to dinner. Laddie was there, Patty was there, and I said, listen, I just read the script. I have it in the car. You got to read it. They're going to put it in turnaround at Warner's, and he was then president of Fox. And I said, it's extraordinary.
Dick Donner had very friendly with Jay Cantor and Alan Ladd. He took it to Laddie at a dinner party on Saturday night. Tuesday, we were in London.
Don't forget, this picture literally was turned down by every studio in town, including Fox. So when we went back to Fox, Laddie moved in on a picture that had already been turned down by his people.
Chuck Bale was going to use gargoyles, covens, and lots of things that were in Switzerland architecturally. Dick Donner didn't want any of it. And he took out the covens, the witchcraft, the unbelievable parts. And he made it a regular picture. And he said, you know, if it's real, it will be believable. And that's the way it was.
Dick Donner is a really brilliant director. He guided the script, he guided the actors, he casted properly, he had the best production design team. In London, they, at that point, took production design much more seriously than in America. And I wrote stage directions that were fulfilled to the letter. In the graveyard, I talked about rats scurrying from one place to the other. And I went on the soundstage in London, and they were training rats to scurry around. I had written about the priest's walls being papered from top to bottom with pages from the Bible. And sure enough, that was there, page by page, the priest's walls. At that point in this country, they wouldn't have taken a script that seriously. They would have cut corners, they would have taken all kinds of shortcuts. But with Dick in charge and the people he hired, this thing became, you know, down to the letter, very, very authentic to the script anyway.
You give an actor the screenplay to read, and he comes away and he says, how are you going to treat it? And you're going to say, well, I'll tell you, I want to treat this like a reality. I want to treat this like I don't believe a woman was violated by a jackal and she gave birth to the devil's child, but I do believe that in somebody's life we all say, this is the worst day of my life, this is the worst moment's ever happened. Well, things happen and they accumulate, and they can accrue to such a level that I think you lose control of your own mind. And I think Lee Remick's character started to lose it very early, and it brought out insecurities in Peck's character.
Anything wrong?
I just can't stand that noise.
Oh, it's not all that bad. Good morning, Damien.
And when Gregory Peck said yes to this film, it validated the film. I mean, Gregory Peck in this kind of a film, man, I mean, this is This is extraordinary. It's unheard of. But he was looking for a film at the moment. Everything was opportune. He saw what we saw.
Kathy, I love you. If this is what the doctor's doing to you, don't you think it's time I had a talk with him?
Yes, you should. There's something he wants to talk to you about anyway.
Oh?
Lee Remick came on board after Gregory Peck was committed. And she was living in England. She was also looking for some work. Or not looking for work per se, but looking for a project that she wanted to get involved in.
Lee Remick was under the quota system in England, and so we got her. And she was a magnificent lady, a tremendous actress, very professional, very warm-hearted, kind, and really a lovely woman.
Darling, let's go see the monkeys, okay?
Harvey came in, little Harvey. He had blondish hair, so we dyed his hair with, I think, shoe polish or something, really, everything that somebody would wash off. And eventually we put contacts in to change the color of his eyes. And each of the kids that we tested, I'd ask them to attack me. Let's get into this fight. And I'd kind of provoke them.
Stop.
And Dick says, when I yell action, you attack me, and don't stop till I yell cut. Okay. Dick yells action, the guy hits him right in the balls. He hits him right in the, tiger, hit him right in the nuts. Boom, 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 boom. And Dick says cut, and the kid doesn't quit. Dick says, dye his hair black, and he is Damien.
Little Harvey, he was tough. Sure, he was a little kid. He was about that high, and I was holding him like this, and he was kicking and screaming and scratching and everything, and he was a good kid. I would not have wanted him to be my own.
Billie Whitelaw is a dream actress to work with.
Have no fear, little one. I am here to protect thee.
She was fantastic. She was really fantastic. She was utterly believable.
She read the screenplay, and she came in and wanted to talk, and she had such a fix on it and such a handle that the minute you find somebody that can run with a character like that as strong as she did, there was just no two ways about it. Nobody came close.
Father, thanks again.
David Warner's name was submitted by an agent. And David Warner was one of my favorite actors from Morgan. I don't know if you ever saw Morgan, but if you didn't, you owe yourself a treat for one of the great English films made in the 60s. I mean, a classic. And David Warner was the classic character that carried that piece through. Bizarre, wonderful. And they suggested David Warner, and I said, are you kidding?
He had a great contribution to make, because his character, it was his own. It was written, but the character, he developed the character. And he had a great rapport with Peck.
Externally, his body was perfectly normal, except for one small thing in the inside of his right thigh.
What is it?
3 6s. 666.
Concentration camp?
That's what I thought. But the biopsy says it's a birthmark. The best is yet to come.
You know, I had been doing television and a couple of failed movies. And number one, when I got Gregory Peck, I couldn't believe it. So gradually, and then as I got Billie Whitelaw, I couldn't believe it. And so gradually I started to get a lot of security in myself. And I would say things like, David Warner, you think he'd do it? And then I'd catch myself and I said, well, yeah, maybe he's right. But I mean, I couldn't believe it. I realized I had a hot property. It all stemmed from a good script that we had rewritten and the fact that we had Gregory Peck. And we had Lee Remick. And other actors just want to get on board right away.
We had some fantastic actors. I mean, Lee Remick and Gregory Peck and Patrick Troughton and the others are in it were fantastic character actors. So we're relying upon getting the horror out of it from within them. Their belief in the horror of it, their belief that this child is evil, their belief in the fact that he may be the son of the devil, makes the audience believe it. Instead of relying upon gore and blood and flashy effects, it was a psychological. You got within them.
Eyes seem to magnify almost everything because you can. A lot of actors, you look into their eyes, there's nothing behind it, and those are actors you hate to work with. Here, I had a dog that had everything behind it. I had Billie Whitelaw, I had David Warner, I had Lee Remick.
Holly. I'll take him, Mum. No, I'll take him. Come on. Let's go over here.
Miss Thorpe, put him on the train, will you? We'll get some nice shots.
Dick shot a lot of these big eyes close-ups. I mean, there were sequences I remember with the dog. The Rottweiler first is introduced at the merry-go-round with the party and stuff, and we used the eyes as to get inside the people, get inside the evil of the child, and inside as though the dog had an intelligence. And then there was Billie Whitelaw also as the nanny. We used those moving in, tracking in, zooming in on the eyes, as though there was a sort of a telepathy or a transference of this evil between them. Very simple techniques, very effective, only effective if the actor is conveying something with those eyes.
Sometimes we overuse them, overdo them. I think we were fairly judicious in it, and those things are just wonderful to have. Bankroll them, put them away. You just never know until you get into that cutting room what you're going to be stealing or looking for.
My job as an editor is to create the tempo, the moments, to pull those moments out. Editing is all to do with timing. And if the performance is there, you just have to respect the timing of the actors and maximize the moment. If you cut too quickly, you're going to lose some of the essence of it. If you cut too slowly, you're going to over milk it, and it's not going to be effective. It's all just got to do with the right length.
Robert, I want to know what he said. Look, I'm not just some bystander. I was the one that found him.
I'm the one that's supposed to kill him. These are knives. He wants me to stab him. Wants me to murder a child.
It's not a child.
How can he know that? Maybe he's wrong. It's insane. I won't have anything to do with murdering a little boy. He's not responsible. I won't do it.
Well, if you don't do it, I will.
The interesting thing about the decapitation, originally it was supposed to be a plate of glass that was dropped from the top of a building, and he was walking, and he bent over to pick up the knives, and he's decapitated. And John Richards came to me and he said, listen, I've tried this and tried this on cables, on rigs. He said, every time it falls, it wants to leaf. It wants to go against the wind. He said, I can't do it. I said, well, keep trying, John. I got to do this. He said, I have an idea. He said, what if I can make it come straight off as a sheet of glass? I said, well, if we can validate it. So he said, let's try and validate it. So we came up with the idea that this truck was there, the brake release when the guy gets out of it. It runs down, hits a bike, and the sheet of glass comes off and decapitates him. And it really seemed to make sense. And we had no money when we made this picture, but I grabbed every single camera known to mankind that we had on the truck that was at the studio. I think we had 6 or 7 cameras rolling. I was shooting one of them. And when the piece of glass came off and it took the dummy's head off, it turned into a reverse spin, almost like a cue ball shot. When we looked at this decapitation, it's like show the banana, slip on it. Audiences, it's and a 1 and a 2 and a 3. When you have this seems the audiences are conditioned, and especially if it's something that has this terrible fear, they look away, and they usually look away. And if you want to count for them, they're going to look up usually right after 3. So it's in a 1 and a 2 and a 3, and it's over. And that's how we had cut it. So we went back in and recut it. And we did in a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 5. And the head was still going. So when they came up from the 3, having seen it come off and knew it was gone, they looked, and it was still there. It was this compounded scream that came out of nowhere, and then that landed, and the music was perfect. And it taught me a great deal about cutting. It was an interesting moment because it was done exactly the way it should be. But then we found a way of doing it even better.
The beheading sequence is really a classic because there was no blood. And there was not necessary for any blood. But the first time we shot it, the plate glass went straight through the building and didn't break. Cut his head off, but didn't break. So then we had to re-rig it. And Dick had 5 cameras at different speeds going on. And David Warner wouldn't see that sequence.
I drove home with his head in my car one day. I almost caused accidents on the M4 going because I just had it kind of suspended. He wouldn't carry it. He wouldn't even look at it, David Warner. So I can't look at myself.
The scene of the priest running, we had very powerful ridders, very powerful. And we used a hovercraft as a dolly. And it's the first time Gil Taylor said there was a hovercraft available, and we got it. And that's why the dolly was so smooth. And the ridders were blowing, and the leaves were fed into the ritter. And Patrick Troughton was the priest, and he ran, and he was scared, and the music was building. And then when the top of the steeple fell, I wanted to test it. I was standing there, and when it came down, I felt it was going to impale me. I was hit in the feet, but I swear to God, it was so frightening. And so Patrick Troughton, when he got there, he felt that it was going to hit him.
Baboons bite. Keep all car windows closed. Keep all car windows closed. Baboons are dangerous.
With the baboons, they said, all right, what we'll do is we'll keep them in a pen. We'll feed them for about 3 hours. We'll put bananas on the top of the car. Let them loose. They're going to run out, and it'll look like they're going to kill you. And so, bang, roll cameras. I'm inside shooting with Lee in the back. And the baboons come out, and they run. They jump on the car, and they grab the bananas, and they start eating the bananas. Oh, shit. Cut. We tried a million things.
Now, Windsor Safari Park had thousands of people going through a day, and you could drive your cars through, just as they did, through the baboon enclave, you know. And of course the baboons get pretty blasé. They're used to being fed, they're used to seeing people, so getting them angry was pretty difficult.
The veterinarian came to us and he said, listen, he's 2 things. He said, there's the big baboon, the big maha, the big kahuna, has a terrible cut, and I'm going to have to knock him out, sew this thing up. He said, if you have him in the car, when the others see that you're taking the big kahuna out, they're going to go berserk. So it was a Ford station wagon. And we had a guy holding the baboon. It wasn't the baby, it was the big guy. We tried it with the baby once. They didn't give a shit. Bye-bye, baby. But they saw the big kahuna. And they were holding him up. And I'm shooting. I got Lee in the front. She's driving on the right-hand side. It was England. And I got the kid on the left. And he keeps looking in the back to the camera and everything. And the baboons are really coming at the car. And Lee goes to scream. I said, no, Lee, not yet. Not. She said, I said, not yet. And I look down, and the baboon is coming too. And he's got a hold of her hair. And he's pulling her back. And these baboons are stronger than 10 of us. And so we reach in and we pry the hair out of the baboon, try and hold his arms. Meanwhile, we're getting attacked from all sides. They're pounding on the window. It feels like they're going to come through the glass. Lee was totally, we had to change her wardrobe 3 times. The kid was horrified. Total state of panic. If you notice that scene, there's a lot of shake in that camera, and that's me, because I was scared stiff. And when I realized we had enough, and the guy who was in, he says, I can't hold this guy any longer. I said, drive, Lee, drive. So she drove, and we got the gates closed. We're outside. A whole bunch of handlers came and took this guy away from us.
So Dick shoots. It was a very tight schedule, very difficult. Only so many days to shoot, and certainly only one day to shoot those baboons plus other stuff. Well, I saw the material, and I said, Dick, we ain't got a sequence here.
And Stewart would say, shit, I said, I don't want to hear from you anymore. You go shoot the goddamn baboons.
And there was me trying to get these close-ups with the baboon, and the guards, the warders they had shotguns because we were in amongst them a bit. But of course they got bored with us doing that, and we got carried away. And after a while, suddenly I was looking through the camera, or next to the cameraman, prodding this bloody baboon, trying to get a screech out of it with my broom handle. And suddenly we had this shout from the side, "To move! To move!" And so the cameraman and I looked up, and we were surrounded. Because everybody else had gone off, got bored with it. We're surrounded by these baboons. And if they'd jumped on us, they'd have got their courage and all been on us. So could have been a nasty moment, but it was a stupid thing to do. But when you're filming, you get carried away.
And we were forced into situations that were really extreme. And I look back on it, and there's a scene in that picture that to this day, if you're doing any kind of lecturing, somebody will say, how did you do that scene where Lee Remick falls from the balcony and hits the floor? And that's pretty an amazing scene if you really look at that carefully and look at the cut. We created the horror of the fall and the height of the fall by putting a fishbowl on the balcony, on a balustrade. As she moves the table, the kid comes along, hits her, she falls against the balustrade and knocks the fishbowl over. So you start on a fishbowl and let it go at 125 frames a second. You see it slow motion going all the way down, hitting the floor and splattering. That really tells you how dangerous it is. To tell you my way of life, though, with filmmaking, they had it with goldfish in it. And I said, no live goldfish, man. I'm not going to kill a goldfish for a movie. So they sent him out to the caterer, who was still there, and we got sardines, dried them, and painted them orange for the fall. But I don't believe any actor, person, or animal or thing should be hurt in the making of a movie. Anyway, so that gave you, this exemplified the height and the fall and everything. And then we had all kinds of boxes and built it up and everything, so she was hanging onto the balustrade. And as she let go, she only had to fall maybe 6 inches onto this balcony. And then we took the floor and we put it on the wall. And we took the palm and nailed it to the wall and wired its leaves up so it would defy gravity. And we took some plastic and cut it out and put it on the ground like water. We put the phony sardines in that, and then way back here, now that wall is where your camera is, let's say. Now my camera's back here, and I start on Lee Remick's face, and she's on a dolly. So we dollied her away, and it turned. So she starts in a big close-up, she screams like this, and then the dolly turned, so it took her away, took her right smack into the floor. and actually was just dollying horizontally and right up against that. And then the minute she hit there, we cut to the floor, put her face down, put a live goldfish on the floor so it would flap for only 17 seconds so it would get back in the water immediately. And it became a conversation piece. How the hell did they do that?
The Rottweilers, of course, were extraordinarily frightening in the first film, and accidentally so, because we were originally going to use German Shepherds, and they were trained German Shepherds here we were going to use, and then we found out we couldn't bring them into England. They have a 6-month quarantine on dogs, and the only dogs that were available in England were these Rottweilers, fortunately, who were very, very scary.
When we filmed the scene at Czechoslovakia in the graveyard, all the stuntmen wore leather armor and metal armor underneath their legs and arms. The one dog bit the leg of David Warner's stuntman, cut right through the armor, cut through the leather, and had 14 stitches. The dogs went bananas. We were up in parallels, and they all started fornicating. I mean, unbelievable, uncontrolled. Luckily, we were up there. It was mayhem.
Yeah, well, that's all they were doing. They weren't angry. They were trying to hump each other. I mean, there's shots in there. If you really look closely, there's a couple of dogs up on top with glazed eyes, but we just put sounds in of dogs barking. And as a matter of fact, they loved each other, the dogs.
In the dog attack, I did some very interesting things with the chorus, not singing, but making grunts and groans and making strange noises that are not necessarily musical, but I incorporated them as being musical.
Jerry Goldsmith had a concert of all his music, his movie music, and Dick Donner and I and my wife and Rosemary Schwartz went to see him. And Dick and I looked at each other, and he said, "That's the guy for the score."
The score of The Omen is one of its great strengths. Jerry Goldsmith used that religious chant, almost Gregorian chant, so effectively for the horror aspects, with a beautiful love theme between the husband and wife, Gregory Peck and Lee Remick. But it was really the use of the Gregorian chant, which was really very effective and innovative.
And I just felt that there was definitely a very strong love story with Gregory Peck and Lee Remick, and also the love of the child. I mean, this side of thing, this intense relationship, this love, makes the horror even more terrifying when you think that when he loses his wife who he loves so much, and his kid that he loves so much, and all of a sudden he realizes finally that the moment where the kid is the devil, I mean, it's made more powerful by the fact that they've established this relationship. That's really good filmmaking. It's good storytelling. It's good construction.
Jerry Goldsmith's score, I think, probably kicked the movie over the top. It was liturgical and really more deeply troubling than even the darkest liturgical music can be. And he would establish themes which, even in scenes that didn't convey on the surface any threat, he would reiterate a theme from an earlier scene that did contain a threat, and you would begin to feel, it did exactly what music should do. I mean, in the greatest tradition of Hollywood music, it amplified the psychological underpinnings.
Jerry Goldsmith's score had as much to do with the success of the film as the visuals did. And when he said to me, I would like to do something like Gregorian chants. I hear a choral group. I figured, oh, okay, I got to hear this.
And then I started thinking about it, the demonic nature of the film, and then I talked to the choir master I was going to use in London, and he was quite a linguist when it comes to Latin. I mean, he knew the language, and he spoke Latin fluently. If one speaks Latin fluently, I don't know if he speaks fluently, but anyway, he did speak Latin very well, and we started talking, and I got this idea, wait a minute, why don't I make this sort of like a black mass? So I take the mass, and I said, give me some lines out of the mass, and he started giving me some words, and I said, what if we just twist them around, and like, you know, we're gonna, instead of hailing Mary or whatever, let's hail Satan. He said, well, that's Ave Satani. I said, great title, you know.
The day we were recording, he brought in this choral group, and we put up the film to the particular scene, and Jerry got up there, and all of a sudden this group and this guttural deep breathing started to do Antichristo, 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 and I got the shivers. I mean, the hair came up on the back of my neck, and I got to the point in the film, quite honestly, where I would say to Jerry, get rid of the music, can't we use more of that? I mean, I remember there was a shot where the Rottweilers up on the steps of the mansion, and Peck is down below, and he looks up and he sees the silhouette of the animal, and he's coming across the thing, and it was scored. It was scored beautifully. And then I said, Jerry, what? He said, okay. And he brought the people back on stage, and they did. It almost was the breathing of the dog. It was Antichristo, Antichristo. It was mind-blowing.
I must say that we were all stunned when we were in England. The big orchestras there. Lionel Newman was conducting for Jerry. We were in the control room, and they started playing the theme with this big English choir and big orchestra based on Gregorian chants, and everybody's mouths dropped open, because that's one of the most exciting and scariest moments. You don't really hear your music until it's played. And Jerry had been nominated, I think, 11 or 12 times and never won. Actually didn't want to go to the Academy Awards. He said he couldn't take that rejection again. But we were pretty sure he was going to win, and he did.
And I remember when I'd started working on the picture, and a month later, and Harvey kept saying, you're going to win an Academy Award for this. This is going to be an Academy Award. I said, come on, Harv. I mean, this is a horror picture. Nobody goes... And I guess I was wrong.
He was smoking 3 cigarettes at a time during the Academy. He was so nervous. But he won, and he deserved to win.
I mean, since I've lost 17 times and won once, I mean, I'm an expert at losing. A novice at winning. I think that Omen at that time was my 10th or 11th nomination. And I was just getting used to not winning, so I was really surprised when I won. And I especially Bernard Herrmann had been nominated for 2. He had just passed away, and the sentiment was felt. As soon as they announced him, you could hear the applause in the audience. I said, oh, there it goes. And so when they did announce me, it was unbelievable.
The budget of the film was $2.5 million. And we brought it in for $2.5 million,
including Gregory Peck's salary, including the fact that we shot it in England, Italy, Jerusalem, all cast in above and below, and we got an extra $25,000 from Laddie when I said I'd love Jerry Goldsmith to do this. Actually, Harvey had a relation with Goldsmith. I loved his music, but he was way above our budget. In those days, it was like $25,000, and Laddie okayed it. So we delivered that picture for the ridiculous sum of $2,225,000, which is, expense money today for your leading star.
God, help me. Please! Stop! Stop or I'll fire!
The way the picture originally ended was an ambiguous ending. It was a funeral for all three. Like the kid died, Peck died, and Lee Remick was dead, and it was a final. And Alan Ladd Jr. came over to look at the first rough cut. And he said, "Yeah, I really love it. I love it. Everything's terrific." And we were at dinner. And then halfway into dinner, he said, "Did you ever think of maybe have the kid alive in the end?" I said, "Oh my God, what a great idea." This is Laddie, president of the studio. And I said, "Can we have a couple of bucks? Do a quick reshoot on the back lot at Shepperton Studios." He said, "You got it." So we did a close-up of the flag being handed to the back of a actress who was supposed to be the ambassador's wife and the ambassador. And as they got the flag, and it was all very tight, and we tipped down and went between them, and there's the back of little Harvey Stevens, and the omen is still, he turns and he looks at the camera. And he had this very severe face. I said, "I want you to really look mean, and, let me see what you can really do." And he looked right into that camera, and he was looking very mean. And I said, "Don't you laugh. Don't you laugh, Harvey. Harvey, you're laughing. Don't you stop." And he started to fight it, and all of a sudden this big smile came to his face. Laddie saw it, and he said, "That's going to make the movie," and he was right.
I don't think that I've ever, in all of the films that I've worked on, and some of them are pretty important films, ever realized at the time I was doing them that this was going to be a pivotal film, a momentous film. This was going to be sort of a stepping stone somewhere.
I was struck by how simple the picture is, how straightforward in its style of making, and its honesty in the performances, in the action beats. There was no gratuitous gore or horror. Nobody was trying to shock you out, or you were just relying on a very well told story, and an effective story with an excellent cast.
The picture, when I sat through it and Dick sat through it, and the crowds would go utterly bananas, it was such a thrill to watch at the emotional effect that it had on the people. And they would walk out totally exhausted. And we said, "Geez, we made this picture." I mean, it was phenomenal to make a picture that has that psychological effect. It shows you the power of film.
The Omen changed my life. The Omen, opened up my career. Before that, I had done a lot of television, and 2 or 3, the X-15, Twinkie with Charlie Bronson and Susan George, and Salt and Pepper with Sammy Davis and Peter Lawford. They were fun little things to do, but it put me right back in television. The Omen turned me around. I will be obligated to Alan Ladd Jr. for the rest of my life. He gave me that opportunity. He believed I could make that picture and could do something with it. From that came came the rest of my career. That was Superman and Inside Moves and everything that I held near and dear, all followed because of the Omen. Gave me my opportunity. I will be, if it's an omen, it's a good omen.